Well, finally got to watch the movie Citadel. I've had it rented now for about 4 or 5 days. I haven't really had the chance to check it out until tonight. And I gotta tell you, this was easily a very stressful watch. Not necessarily because of the movie. Okay, yeah, part of it is. One thing I cannot stand in some movies is a quiet movie. I hate when I'm sitting here and have the volume at a decent, normal level, and every actor is basically coming through like this. You can't hear a single thing they're saying. It sounds like everybody's whispering, but they're talking at a low level. And then, ah! No, not necessarily a scream like that, but the main villains of this film basically scream like babies. Okay, now that I got that out of the way, because it's an issue that plagued everybody nearby, because I live in an apartment building, and neighbors and even my fiance were complaining about it. So, allow me to get to what's going on. All Citadel is basically, it's about the main character Tommy, who witnesses his wife get drugged, I guess you would say. A group of kids ambush her, and he's stuck in an elevator, he can't get out, and when he gets out, runs up the stairs and finds her to have some weird-looking syringe in her, and she happens to be pregnant, so it's plunged into the stomach. Well, she winds up going to the hospital. I think it was 9 months later she dies. Well, they pull the plug. So because of that, it causes the main character, Danny, to suffer from agoraphobia. And that's basically the whole idea of the film. He's trying to overcome that fear, go into therapy, and planning to leave the town because it's in such disarray, and they're trying to revive it. But basically, the priest of the film is introduced when they're burying his wife, and he tells him, "Go home. They're gonna get the baby." And who they are basically the children that are living in this Citadel, which turns out to be just an old apartment building, and it's revealed what it is exactly towards the end of the film. And the two eventually team up because I don't know what these things are. I don't know if they're supposed to be just mutated kids, if they're demons, I don't know what they are. But they clearly are represented as not human. And the shrieking is obnoxious. That's basically all that these things do. Just and shriek, like a baby. There's even a scene in the film where Tommy confuses one of these things with a baby. But getting a little bit ahead of myself. The whole concept of this film is that he's trying to leave town, and then he gets ambushed by these kids while he's trying to leave, gets on the bus and tries to leave, and they take his baby. So him and the priest team up and invade this Citadel, and they have to go find the baby. Now, the way the summary had it, it sounded like a fantastic action horror film. No. Much of it is boring, but there's a good deal of character development going on. The priest gives a little background behind what's going on. Tommy, in the very beginning, you learn that he had a wife, you learn what happened to her, and then there's a nurse named Mary who tries to console him and help him with his agoraphobia. And then, at the same time, there's another character named Danny who happens to be a blind child to the priest. That's essentially what a lot of this film is. There really isn't a lot of action. And that's fine. This wasn't that great a film. It was more, I guess you could say more of a drama, really, than a horror film, or even of an action film. This really was a lot of character development, for the simple fact that the film is about Tommy, and all the events essentially are him trying to overcome his agoraphobia. And if you look at it that way, it's actually a decent film. It's not the greatest, but for a low-budget film, it's not that bad. The effects in it are pretty good. The explosions actually look pretty good. They don't look like they're 100% CGI. They look alright. The camera work is actually very well done. When the lights go out, it's not dark where you can't see a thing. outside of what you need to not see. Like, it looks dark in a normal, natural sense. Not everything is purposely dark, and there's only one light meant to emphasize one thing. It's not meant to do something like that, like some of the movies I've seen lately. There's really nothing much to say about this film. The whole story is Tommy's wife dies, they kidnap the baby, him and the priest and Danny, and Danny go into the Citadel, and the whole intent outside of getting Danny's child back is to go in and blow it up. The priest wants to blow it up, largely because of a reason due to his past. And one other thing that happens is, well, I won't really go into a lot of spoiler territory, but this is a spoiler territory. The whole concept is these things can smell fear. So when Tommy gets afraid, largely because of his agoraphobia, they can smell him, they go after him, and that's why they take the baby. Apparently, I don't know, that's what the story gives. Danny can't see, so he's not afraid. He's not afraid of these things at all. So when they're confronting these things, he's consoling Tommy, and making it so Tommy and them cannot be seen. Later on, Danny actually can see. I don't exactly know how that works, but he eventually does start seeing, and then he starts to become the one that fears these things. So Tommy has to eventually get over his fear in order to get alive. So that's basically it. When you look at the film that way, instead of, oh my god, this is a horror film about these demons that are haunting this place and kidnap the guy's child, so he has to go in and get it. It's really not the greatest film. It's not that bad, though. I don't know. I enjoyed it for what it was. Obviously, again, the quiet audio in film really does become irritating after a while. I had to turn the volume up to hear people talking and then turn it back down during the action because of the ear-piercing sounds. The acting in it actually was not that bad. Tommy basically just looked like not Elijah Wood. And the whole time I was just looking at him, like, is he Elijah? No, he's not. He doesn't look exactly like him, but he does kind of look like him. Other than that, his performance was actually pretty good. Danny's, the kid who plays Danny actually did a good job. Same with the priest. The priest had a bit of an eccentric quirk to him that you weren't sure if what he was saying is true until you physically see what's going on. Mary, she seemed very caring and comforting. Like, she seems like the kind of person that I would really enjoy hanging around, because very positive, uplifting, very willing to help out. And, I don't know, I really don't know what else to say. Citadel wasn't the greatest film. Would I recommend it? As a rental, maybe. I don't know if I'd say it's worth a purchase. Out of a 10, I would have to give it a 6. I mean, there's awesome production to it. It looks really good. The acting is actually pretty good, but the story it's kind of slow. And once they actually enter the Citadel, you're almost at the end of the film. So any actually interesting bits are very minute. I don't really think the kids were ever explained well, too. There's something to do with a mold or a fungus growing in the apartment, growing in the Citadel. And that's about it. That's all the explanation I think you really get out of that as to what these things are. So, I mean, it's a newer film. It's starting to. It just recently hit Redbox and all that. If you feel like shelling out $1.20 to watch it, it's not a bad film, but it's nothing that's gonna really leave you inspired. It's not gonna be an awe-inspiring, jaw-dropping experience. It's one you might remember a little bit more because, again, of the whole concept of Danny overcoming his agoraphobia. But that's about it. And the way it ends, it doesn't really leave you with any closure. Like, okay, well, what's going to happen after this? What's going to happen to Danny? I'm sorry, not Danny. What's going to happen to Tommy? What's going to happen to the baby? I mean, what happened to Mary? They say that Mary doesn't die. Well, where is she? What's going to happen? Does Tommy actually leave? And is this really the end? Will these things be back? So there's a lot of unanswered questions. I don't really see a sequel to Citadel coming around. If there is, I hope a lot of these questions would be answered. I would definitely rent the second one just to see if they are and find out what happened after this film, as I actually am genuinely curious on Tommy and his condition and what happens from it. So, if you want to see a film that's full of character development and not necessarily a lot of action, that's well acted and actually flows smoothly from start to finish, not a lot of filler, it's a good watch. It's nothing that scary. Just remember that the audio is really, really annoying. I don't know why people have to keep making films like that, but I hate it. I wish it would stop. I really do.